I had some time off earlier this week to visit the AD, and I took the chance to stop in and ask for another watch to be put on my wish list. The 4947 caught my eye on the website, but I had never actually seen it in person at any store. This is not a hype piece, and I had not heard much talk about this watch, but I like the size of it, 38 millimeters, and the dial design, and all the complications that it has. My last visit was over 3 months ago when I ordered two new straps in size small, and today I was wearing the 5226G. And he mentioned that this strap was also popular, and he had seen people put this strap on different models. So we talked at the front of the store, and I was just hoping to get my name put on the list for the 4947 and maybe get a call back in about 6 months. He walked me to the back, and I was actually surprised to see him pull this out of the display case with its stickers. I was surprised because it was not here on my last visit, and it was not here on any of my previous visits either. He let me try on the watch, and when I said I liked it, I liked the size on my wrist and the design, and especially that blue color. He said it was available for purchase. I had to think about it for about 2 seconds because I was not prepared to buy anything that day, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity to get this, another steel Patek Philippe, and one with a full bracelet as well. But this watch is not for everyone. There's a reason why this is not a hype piece. Some people may not like the dial design or the 38 millimeter size, not wanting to buy a smaller watch. And if you're coming from Rolex, you should not have too high expectations about the bracelets that come from Patek Philippe. But let's take this home and unbox it and take a closer look at the watch. As usual, I had the option of keeping the outer shipping box, and inside of this is a sturdy, high-quality brown cardboard outer box. These wood boxes for Patek Philippe are extremely beautiful and high quality, but they are large and they're starting to take up a lot of space in the closet. Inside the outer box is the receipt, and inside is the wooden presentation box wrapped up in this microfiber cloth. In the bottom compartment is the brown leather wallet, which contains the certificate of authenticity on the left, in which they handwrite your name and your address. And in the right pocket is the manual and information on registration. The manual is very thick because it's published in multiple languages. But this time I did not get a pamphlet with information on the Patek Philippe Museum. I did receive that pamphlet in all of my other purchases. The wooden presentation box is extremely high quality, way ahead of Rolex, and it's highly polished on the outside, and it has metal hardware on the buckle in the front and on the feet at the bottom. The box is angled downwards towards the front to get a better view of the watch. The plush material on the inside is very clean and minimal, with no extra objects or pockets, just that brown hang tag and the watch on the cushion. The first thing that strikes me about the watch is the dial design and that unique textured blue dial. At first glance, this might look like a chronograph, but the subdials are actually part of the annual calendar, indicating the day of the week and the month and the moon phase. The 5-link solid link bracelet has already been sized to my wrist, and it has a butterfly clasp for closure. The entire bracelet is highly polished, even including the inside, so this gives it a dressy look. On the side of the cushion is stored the tool used to set the watch and used to depress the pushers on the sides of the case. There are two tiny pushers on each side of the case used to adjust the moon phase, the day of the week, the month, and the date. And the crown is used to set the time. I won't go into exactly how to set everything because that can get a little bit complicated. But this was already set at the AD, and he walked me through the procedure of how to do it. The design of the polished case and the polished bezel is very simple and elegant, but still recognizable as being in the Patek Philippe style. The sides of the case have nice curves to them, and the lugs also curve down to conform to the wrist. So both the case diameter and the lug to lug distance makes this watch very wearable for my small wrist. I would say even though this is a 38 millimeter, it fits pretty closely to a 36 millimeter Datejust, which is a perfect size for me. And of course, the case back is transparent and shows off that beautifully highly finished movement. And it also has a solid gold self-winding rotor. The steel bracelet is lightweight, it's silky and smooth, but there are a couple drawbacks to this bracelet. Because it does not have any micro adjustment, the fit can be tricky. Right now it fits well on me most of the time, but when my wrist expands, it does get a little bit tight. So I'm going to think about adding another half link to this bracelet. The links are held together by a pin that you can just push through to add in an extra link. I have a tool for this at home and I feel pretty confident that I can do this myself. He showed me at the store what the links and the pins look like after you remove them. The clasp is a butterfly clasp and it's very sleek, and I think they made the right choice by not including any micro adjustment because that would just add thickness to the clasp. It does feel secure. You do have to press both buttons to release each side of the clasp, and it doesn't matter in which order you release each side of the clasp. You can open either side first or second, and you can close either side first or second. And that's different from my Omega Aquaterra, where you have to close one side before the other. But I'll put on the macro lens and try to get some more close-up shots of the dial. This blue textured dial on this stainless steel watch is one of the stars of the show. I think this is very unique, and I don't think they have this particular color or pattern in any of the other Patek Philippe watches. It's in a shantung pattern or a linen pattern and is cross-hatched with lines vertically and horizontally. With direct or bright lighting, it looks more pronounced, but in darker lighting, the dial looks more like a plain blue or a dark blue, and from a distance, it does not look that interesting, but all the interest comes up on closer inspection, just like most other Patek Philippe watches. The hour markers are white gold in a stylized font, but not quite totally Breguet numerals. There have been complaints about the top two subdials, but I don't see a problem here, and I think they look just fine to me. And the moon phase dial at the 6 o'clock just adds some extra visual interest. The size and dimensions of this watch make this very wearable for my 6.5-inch wrist, and I don't think this looks too small on me at all. And I think if you have a less than 7-inch wrist circumference, I think you'll do just fine with this watch. But because of the design of the lugs, I think this 38 millimeter watch looks very similar on the wrist to a 36 millimeter Datejust with a Jubilee bracelet. But I think this may feel even more lightweight than a Datejust because of this bracelet. I was able to see some other watches in the display case for display only, so we'll take a look at that. But before that, I did take this out for lunch after I bought the watch. I knew going in that the cubitus would be very large on my wrist, and seeing this in person just confirmed it. This watch wears very large on my wrist and does not look very flattering at all on my small wrist. And even if this was slightly smaller, I still don't think the design is any better than the Nautilus, so I still would prefer the Nautilus over this. And even though I think they'll make smaller sizes in this next year, I think they'll probably go all the way down to a lady's size. So I still like the design of the Nautilus, but they only had this leather strap Nautilus in the display case. They did still have the steel aquanaut in the display case, and I tried this on during my last visit, and this was also just too big for my wrist. So I never asked for that watch. As for extras, I was given this Patek Philippe catalog book, and this is a really nice book, very heavy and thick. It starts out with a message in the front, and then it goes into some of the history of Patek Philippe. But it also includes a short description and one page for each and every model in the catalog. So this is nice to flip through. This has even better pictures and descriptions than the standard paper catalog book. And at the end of the book, tucked into the flap, they have this fold-out poster of every Patek Philippe reference if you want to hang that up. I finally filled up the bottom row of my watch box with a Patek Philippe, and I think there's a fair variety of watches here, from the simple Calatrava up to the complications with a weekly calendar and an annual calendar. 2 stainless steel watches and 3 in white gold, and 1 with a full metal bracelet. All of the leather straps are genuine Patek Philippe straps, but I did have to order them in a size small because of my 6.5-inch wrist. And they were not free, I had to pay extra for these straps. The Calatrava 6119G is my most formal and elegant and maybe my most dressy watch. But because the case design is so flat and is 39mm diameter, it does wear slightly too large for my wrist. But comparing it to a different case design on the 38mm 4947, which is 1mm smaller, this one actually wears much smaller, more like a 36mm Rolex. So I wish they made the Calatrava 6119G in a 37mm. The 5226G might still possibly be my favorite Patek Philippe, just because it is so simple and casual. It looks like nothing special from a distance, but you can see all the great details looking up close. The hobnail pattern all around the circumference of the case, the lugs, the way they attach, and the extremely unique textured dial. This one is 40mm in diameter, so that also wears a little bit large, but I think that's fine because this 5226G is more of a sporty watch, and my new watch is, I would say, more of a dressy watch. The 5212A weekly calendar is, I would say, another casual watch. This is my other stainless steel watch, so this is also very lightweight, and I like the color of that dial. And this is actually the original strap that came with it, except in a size small. And I went through some different straps options on this, but I went back to the original color, which I think looks the best. The 5205G is another complications piece, and this is another one with an annual calendar function. So I think this may have some overlap, but maybe too much overlap with my 4947. But there are some differences because this is white gold and it has a slightly different case design and dial design. The case design looks just slightly thicker, but it has more subtleties and complexities to the case with the curved bezel, the concave bezel, and the scalloped lugs and the hollowed out lugs. The case design of the 5205 makes it look smaller, like a 39mm. Looks very close to the 38mm 4947, And of course, the 4947 has a much simpler case design. And with the complete 10 slot watch box, I think my overall collection is shaping up into be a pretty compact collection with Rolex on the top row and Patek Philippe on the bottom row. On my unboxing video of the white gold Daytona, I mentioned that that would be my final Rolex, and I'm going to be sticking to that for now, and I don't have any plans to buy any further Rolex in the future. And with the addition of this 4947, this might actually be my final Patek Philippe watch purchase, maybe my final watch purchase overall. I'm still not ready to branch into any other brands, and I think I could do quite well with just these 10 watches as my core collection. By the way, thanks to everyone that submitted their guess on which watch I purchased. Uncle 2002 was very close, but I have to give credit to MD Chaz because he was the first one that added the -001 onto the reference number 4947-1A. There were a lot of correct answers. I think I made the thumbnail too easy, and Patek Philippe does not make very many stainless steel watches in the first place. I think Mr. Stern said that they were limiting stainless steel watches to 10% of total production. So having a stainless steel Patek Philippe will be special.